Let's take a look at the first scene in The Penguin. Actually, hang on. Okay, there are definitely going to be some spoilers for The Penguin in this video. So if you haven't seen The Penguin, then, well, stop now. And also, go watch it because it's a really good show. And if you have, then great, let's get to it. Let's take a look at the first scene in The Penguin. Here, we're introduced to the theme of the series, a theme that I believe weaves its way throughout each of the show's 8-episode run. Following on directly from the events in The Batman, we join Oz as he picks his way through the wreckage of the Falcone nightclub. The wreckage itself a metaphor for the state of the Falcone family. And after discovering some incriminating evidence that he plans on using to further his own career, we're joined by Alberto Falcone, the heir apparent to the Falcone crime family.
Hey, Alberto, you're here.
Alberto strolls through the wreckage. His entrance is effortless, his demeanor that of a child, although crucially, a child born into privilege. The difference between these two characters is stark. They are at the opposite ends of the world from each other in every single way, from the way they look, the way they move, and in the way they see the world. And here the show presents what I think is its main thesis, which is children and their need to be seen, and just how far they will go.
My father's been dead a week.
Hey, hell.
In his attempt to throw Alberto off his scent, Oz retreats into his survival mode persona. Now we see him do this countless of times throughout the story, making himself appear smaller, less threatening, less visible. And Alberto, on the other hand, the male heir to a crime boss born to riches, has been seen his entire life. In this tense opening sequence, Oz tells us a story about Rex Calabrese.
When I was a kid, I was a gangster. Real old school type. Rex Calabrese.
Now really, Oz is talking to the audience. He's telling us what matters to him. Now, he admired Rex because Rex managed to make everyone feel important. He remembered their names, he asked how they were, and at least to Oz's recollection, he was authentic. And later, when Rex died, the people remembered him. As a 14-year-old boy who we later learn struggled to be seen by those around him, especially his mother, Oz felt validated by Rex. And this is Oz's worldview. This is what matters to him at the most human level. Alberto, on the other hand, tells us a story about a ring he wears on his pinky finger.
See what I got on?
Dad's ring. Nice.
Wasn't always his. Used to be Salvatore's.
Salvatore Maroni.
He wore Sal's ring as a trophy.
We learn that this is the signet ring of Salvatore Maroni, and that Carmine Falcone, Alberto's father, wore it as the ultimate display of his power. Crucially, Carmine had to earn that power, whereas Alberto wears this ring because he can, because he's the heir, and like everything in life, it has come easily to him. Oz tells us a story about power earned through respect. Alberto tells us a story about power earned through privilege. But both characters express this desire to be seen. When Oz is mocked by Alberto for his display of vulnerability, Oz kills him, setting in motion the events for the rest of our story. Throughout The Penguin, this theme of children needing to be seen and the lengths that they will go to be seen by their parents is repeated. Our other protagonist, Sofia Falcone, struggles with this throughout the story. In a flashback scene, At the dinner table with her father and Alberto, we see their family dynamic play out. Alberto, the male heir, behaves very selfishly as a child to whom everything has been given. He just doesn't feel the need for the attention, and yet the attention is too much. He hides in his phone in this scene, and throughout the story his character hides in his drug addictions. Sofia, meanwhile, is desperate to be seen, and clearly glows in the attentions of her father.
I want you to take my place. I want you to run this family. If that's something that would interest you.
Yeah.
Later, in the story, in her anger at her family and her father's betrayal, she sheds every ounce of Falcone. She kills her family, changes her name, and even burns down the family home. These are all symbolic metaphors, really, for Sofia's shame. Her shame that she revealed to her father her innermost desire to be seen. Her innermost desire was just to be the head of the family. Her father saw it, she let him in. And yet, she was discarded all the same. She wanted to be seen, she was desperate to be seen. And when she was punished. That sense of shame motivates her actions. And so, she runs from it. And we see how skin deep Sofia's attempts at running away are in this scene when she is confronted by Francis Cobb.
You can blame my father. The Falcones were a bit conservative.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're a what, a Gigante now. Yeah. Oswald told me. What are you gonna do next? Dye your hair pink? Get an ass tattoo? That'll teach your daddy a lesson.
This theme of children and their need to be seen is also really present in Vic's story. He begins the story as an orphan with a debilitating stutter, but Oz sees him.
Take a breath.
Now, whilst part of me always kind of questioned the inclusion of the Victor Aguilar character, his arc possibly demonstrates this theme of being seen the most evidently. Let's take this scene from a fine dining restaurant.
Hey, don't do that. The man was speaking. Let him finish.
I apologize. Please.
Yeah, no, the steak steaks.
Right away, sir.
Now, Victor is ashamed of his stutter, but Oz tells him not to be. In fact, he tells him to take up space, possibly my favorite line in the entire series. Victor repeatedly demonstrates the power of being seen by your father, and in his flashback episode, we're shown the opposite. We're shown a scene where Vic's father is actually cooking, and Vic sees him for who he is, this chef. But his father doesn't see Vic for who he really is, a strong and proud man who wants more for his life.
Could be real money for us.
Manny pays me well enough.
Vic is right. He's taking advantage of you, Papi.
You see? You act like wanting more is a bad thing, but I mean, don't you want a better life than this?
And by the end of the story, Victor is unrecognizable.
What, are you gonna let the Maronis and Gigantes do whatever they want?
He physically stands taller, he is more passionate, and he fights fiercely to protect Oz, this father figure who makes him feel seen.
Your dad would be proud of you, Vic.
There are two scenes in particular that I'd like to talk about. And the first one isn't really a scene, it's more of an entire episode, but it's the flashback episode, Top Hat.
'Cause we are a zombie family. I'm gonna eat those sweet brains. Let's feast!
This is the one that tells us, crucially, what happened to Oz's brothers, Jack and Benny. And it reveals a lot about Oz's character. But crucially, it introduces us to Rex Calabrese, the first time we've seen him in the flesh, and the first time we hear of him since the opening monologue in that first episode.
Rex!
Jackie boy, that's you? Shit. Popeye over here.
Now, whilst much of this episode may be about Oz and his brothers, what we see is the impact that being seen by Rex has on a 14-year-old Oz. And much like the dinner table episode with Sofia and Carmine Falcone, Oz revels in the attentions of Rex, and we see that glow. He sees Rex as a role model, and is it any coincidence that when Oz is humiliated at the hands of his brothers in a game of flash tag, that he behaves in a way more in keeping with a crime boss than that of a 14-year-old boy?
Oz, what's going on?
You know it's hard for me to get down it!
I'm sorry, Oz. We'll start over, all right? I'll be at this time.
Have fun getting out!
Oz goes too far. Like, of course he does. But anyone who grew up in a house with siblings will know that sense, will know that feeling of being ganged up on. And they'll also know that desire to be mother's favorite. When Oz returns home after leaving his brothers for dead, the look of happiness on his face tells us everything we need to know.
Jack shouldn't have let you walk home by yourself.
I don't need Jack's help.
Of course not. Because my Oswald's tough.
He wanted to be seen, and he was seen, by Rex. Is it any coincidence that Oz then looked to Rex, a man that his own mother respects? And in aping Rex, he decides to punish his brothers in an absolutely horrific way, but yet he is rewarded for that behavior. The other scene I wanted to talk about comes in the finale. It takes place in a way that mirrors the opening. It's incredible in that way. The opening takes place in Sofia's father's nightclub, and the ending takes place in Oz's father figure's nightclub. In the opening, he is seated in a chair, but he's relaxed and comfortable. In the finale, he is tied to a chair. In the opening, he faces off with Alberto. In the finale, he faces off with Sofia and his own mother. But it is the story that Sofia tells about the two birds that I think most closely cut to the core of what the Penguin is all about.
Berto and I were kids. We found this nest out by the greenhouse with two baby birds inside.
Now, in Sofia's story, there are two birds fighting for their mother's affection. One of the baby birds is far larger than the other bird, and against all logic, the mother bird continues to feed the larger bird more food. The smaller bird, continuing to feel rejected, savagely murders the larger bird.
And killed it. And then it just pushed its brother out of the nest. It was the most disturbing thing I had ever seen.
The mother, returning to the nest, behaves as if nothing has happened. Now, it may be that Sofia has invented this story for the benefit of forcing Oz's confession. Either way, she's telling us her own story with Alberto, and incredibly, she's even foreshadowing the way the lieutenants of the crime families will savagely murder their own bosses. Fittingly, this scene ends with the collapse of Frances, who has a massive stroke just as she has a vision of her two dead boys. Now, throughout The Penguin, Oz wants to be seen by his mother, right? But in the end, his actions, motivated by this desire to make his mother feel proud, actually result in the complete rejection of him.
You're the devil. You're the goddamn devil.
And her last vision is of his siblings. In a very real sense, he goes unseen as his mother's subconscious chooses his brothers.
Ma.
There are other moments that hint at this desire of children to be seen, be that when the heads of the other crime families are all savagely murdered by their lieutenants, who themselves felt unseen, or when Sofia promises that members of this new Gigante family will be seen and not treated as pawns, or even Sofia's own incarceration, where she is made to feel like one of many, but she finds comfort in the attentions of Dr. Rush.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
In fact, the ultimate punishment for Sofia in the finale isn't death. It is a return to Arkham, a return to anonymity, a return to being forgotten. In the end, Oz gets everything he wants. The Penguin ends with Oz as the ostensible head of organized crime in Gotham. But the final scene is a totally perfect ending that pulls the rug out from under our feet. After telling his mother that he has given her what she always wanted, he descends the stairs of this classically beautiful Gothic building, and we see Eve? Is it Eve? Is it Francis? The moment is intentionally confusing, the scene deliberately lit in a manner that blurs the lines between reality and memory. What matters is that Oz has clearly asked Eve to pretend to be his mother.
Tell me you love me.
I love you, Oswald.
Tell me you're proud of me.
I am so proud of you.
And not only that, but to wear the very dress that captured Frances at her most visible, her most spectacular. But this time, Oz doesn't need to wait for his mother's approval. He instructs Eve to give it. His criminal career may have reached its zenith, but his desire to be seen by his mother remains.
Penthouse. I want to bug you, beside you.
I knew you would. My beautiful boy.
The Penguin leaves us with the all too familiar image of the bat symbol lighting up the night sky over Gotham. And it's there perhaps to remind us that this is part of a much larger story, that there is a larger plot to be told, and that in many ways the Penguin, for all its, great storytelling and dedication, is really just the scenic route that takes us from Batman 1 to whatever story is going to be told in Batman 2. But in many ways, that final shot is an intentional reminder of our absent anti-hero, a man who spends his entire time hiding behind a mask, who, despite being the most visible presence in Gotham, perhaps not now, but throughout his reign as the Batman, never shows us who he really is, never shows the world that he is in fact just Bruce Wayne. He is just a man. And I think, and many others agree, this is probably why the Batman resonates so powerfully with so many. Because beneath it all, beneath the money, beneath the power, beneath the gadgets, he really is just a man. And I think at least that's the reason why the Penguin succeeds so wonderfully as a story. Because it paints him as just a man, not a villain played for laughs.
My name is not Oswald! It's Penguin! I am not a human being! I am an animal! Cold-blooded! Crank the AC!
Equally, not a villain without any sense of humanity.
It's better, right? Come on. When you mix the flavors?
Yeah, it's good. My man was a chef.
Chef?
Love to cook.
Is that right?
Yeah.
A crucial detail, I think, that really goes overlooked in The Penguin is how throughout the show's 8-episode run, he hates being referred to as the Penguin. It's an insult. And I think that's a really interesting angle because he believes he is Oswald Cobb. And the show even ends with him wearing this outfit in a way that suggests that he might want to be taken seriously. The universe that Matt Reeves has created may be gritty, it may be raw, it may be messy, but it is a universe that's firmly grounded in reality. It's firmly grounded in the quotidian but no less meaningful trauma of everyday families.
Benny, what the hell are you doing? Did you hear me? Get out of there! God damn it!
Sorry, Mom.
You're in trouble now. 'Cause we are a zombie family.